Well, some days you gotta do what you gotta do just to get a vehicle home. In this case, we had a ball joint completely come off the vehicle, the lower ball joint come down, wheel came out, couldn't move the car, so we had to do some engineering to get the thing home, just to get it around the block a couple of times to get it into my yard. And I'll show you what we had to do under here, and sometimes, you know, you just gotta use what you got. So we took a chain, or I took a chain, wrapped around the ball joint, took a regular exhaust clamp and wrapped around the top of the ball joint and the control arm so we can keep that ball joint together in order to get it back in the yard. We'll take the wheel off there in a minute and look at it, but that's the engineering there, and that's how we did that. So I thought I'd start out with this video here. We're going to replace both these lower ball joints on this vehicle. Ball joint is connected to the control arm, and it's pretty big. We got both of them for both sides for $260. So there's a nice look at it. So yeah, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. Thanks for checking in. All right, so I think you can kind of see what I had to do to get it here. The biggest exhaust clamp I could find was about 3 inches, and put this chain around it to keep it that direction so it wouldn't come off like that. So you might be able to do this to get you home if it's a mile or two if you drive it slow, but probably wouldn't go much more than that. I've already got the tie rod in off on the back of it, so I hammered on that and took it off before I pulled all this apart, because I like to have a little leverage back here. So what you gotta do sometimes. So that's off, and if I push down this here, this ball joint will pretty much come apart. And I had a bolt on the end of this chain here so it wouldn't come apart, so that's how I did that. That's right, we sacrificed a $6 clamp. I remember back in the day when these things were $1.99, they're up to $7, $8 a piece now, but hey, we sacrificed that to get us home, so that worked out really well. So here's what it looks like when it says, "I don't like you no more." There's the ball joint on the bottom, and that's where it sits in there. This whole thing just comes apart, and your wheel is going to be out like this. And if you're lucky, if it happens in the parking lot and you don't move it, you will not rip this boot out. You will not destroy anything else. I'm just amazed that nothing else here got ruined. So, yeah. And you can't replace just the ball joint. You got to replace this whole arm here. So, we're going to start unbolting this. The only issue I have is we got this bolt right here. And you can see right here we got this hose. I gotta figure out how. Maybe I can just unhook this and this will just, okay, well maybe it'll flex enough to get this out. And I got one in the back here that I'm gonna have to wrestle around with, because let me get the camera set up here a little bit for you. You can see, yeah, well, we got a bolt here that has to go this way, but this boot is in the way. We gotta get this out somehow. So this is why I've gone ahead and disconnected the tie rod. Maybe we can work around that somehow, but that is going to be close. We get those two bolts out and then somehow get this back far enough for me to take this out, knock this out right here, this ball joint. There's a nut right there on the top. Then yeah, might be not too bad of a job. So let me start working here and finagling and come back here in a little bit and show you what I've accomplished. Hey, let me know where you're watching from right now. Alright, so it's been about a half hour, and I've decided the best way to fix this is just to get all this stuff out of the way, because you see right here, getting that out is going to be a problem. I cannot get this out with this on here. I don't have any leverage. I can't get anything in here to knock this out. So if this is out, this whole thing is out, I can get this off. These ball joints can be kind of hard to get out, so I'd rather have this off so I can manage it a little bit better. But everything else came off pretty easy. You know, the tie rod in, and I gotta hang all that up with a wire. And I've only got one bolt per left to take this off. Then I can take this whole strut assembly out. And of course I had to take the big bolt out of the axle here. Take that out. What size was that? Because I know someone's saying, what size was it? It's a 1 1/4. 1 1/8 is what I used on that. And you got this little tiny screw here. You got to take a Torx bit with too. to get out, and this will let you take off, which is right there. This makes this whole thing lighter, and of course this came off pretty easy. Hopefully you can get yours off and just take a pry bar, pry down behind here on the this guy here, and push this down a little bit, and this will let you get this out of the hole here. But this is ready to come off. Of course I got my brake lines and stuff kind of out of the way. And even with this out, this is going to give me a little more room to work down here and get this bottom piece out. So, you know, you can do it that way if you want. But if you can get all this off and still somehow get that out of there, knock yourself out, do a video and share it with me. I want to see it. But just for a little extra work, it's going to be more convenient for room and saving a lot of cussing words to myself. So let me go ahead and get this out of here. On the top, we got a couple bungee cords here, kind of do what it's saying, and we got everything here up, out of the way. Look at all this room we have down here now to get this out of here. So I like to do things like that. Just take a little extra time to get the stuff out of the way. Now we got to go ahead and get this bolt out here. Try to figure out how we're going to get past this, and we got one up here. I don't think it'll be too bad. We got that hose there. I think we could work around that, and this thing should come out. So we'll go ahead and get that out. And by the way, look at that. I don't think that ball joint should have come out of there, but it did. A lot of rust in there. Hey, that's what happens, I guess, when you live in the Northeast Salt Belt. Alright, surprisingly, this side hasn't been too bad. I've got a, let's see, a 21mm socket right here. And I got a little pair of vice grips holding the nut, or the bolt. And I'm turning the nut here. And surprisingly, it's coming off pretty easy. And there's a washer on there. I feel that washer. Make sure we get that off too. There we go. Alright, so there's the nut. There's a washer on there. I need to get that. There we go. Get my hand up in there a little farther. Make sure you got your jack under here and your safety jack. Don't crawl under her too far. So that's, we got that out. There's our hose. So I've got to move this hose up, and I think I should be, hey, all right. Boy, this made my day. That was easier than I thought it was going to be. Just push that hose up out of the way. And now let's check out the back one. All right, so what I did here is I turned the wheel to the right, and this boot is all the way in as far as it's going to go. And I think if I get this bolt loose enough, I can just sneak it past that without hitting the camera here. Let me do that again. It probably should come back and maybe just go on the outside of that. So turn your wheel to the left, to the right. Just to push this in. I think we could probably get this out. Let me just go ahead and see if we can break this loose real quick while the camera's rolling here. Get the socket up on there. It's up in there a little ways. I may have to have a deep well for that, because that one's got a little more threads on it. This here, a little short one, may not work, so let me look for a deep well. Alright, so this side is a little more challenging. I had to figure this thing out. So the other side that we just did, I had to use a big old 1/2" ratchet on it. Well, this side over here, I'm using a 3/8, and this socket here is going to be a 7/16, because up in here, the top of the frame kind of comes down like this, or the place that's made into this, and you can't get the exact size socket on there, so you have to use something just a little loose like this, so you can kind of get it at an angle like this, because it drops down like this. You can't get a socket straight on there, even a short one, so you have to kind of go down like this, because part of this is bent down up in there. And then just get a regular old wrench here and put on the end of here, which is what I got here. Actually, it's like this. This wrench is a 13/16, and hold this in from turning, and that will break it loose. I've got it started now, but you can see how it's kind of like sideways here up in there. That's the only way you can get that off. So now I need to get my hand around on the other side of the camera here. Go ahead and break this loose. There we go. Wow, hey. Ta-da! You see that? So it's coming loose. So looks like this may come out a lot easier than I thought. So let me move the camera out of the way and go ahead and get this out of here. Alright, I'm still holding this up with one hand. I had my shoulder under it. Now I got this nut and bolt off on the inside. And look at that. So close. So I think if I fool around with this enough, I should be able to get this out. I'll probably have to move the camera. I don't want to tear this. I may have to loosen this clamp up on this boot and push this boot back farther. Then I should be able to get past there. So let me try that. Hey guys, I'm excited. I got it out. Look, I pushed this boot back as far as it'll go. And I was able to get the bolt out. And the nut. And the other washer, which is kind of like that. Let me grab it there and put all this together so I don't lose it. So basically you got to use a 1/2 inch drive on the front and use a 3/8 drive on the back. And check this out. Let's watch this. Let's pull it out of here. Back the camera up a little bit. We came and we got it. I got it probably. There we go. It's out. Yay! So it wasn't too bad. Now let me just show you what I was talking about here. You got to take this bolt out here. There's a place up in here where this is actually down, so you can't get a socket directly on that unless they make, you know, a half size of a deep well that I have. Maybe just a 1.5 inch deep well you can probably get in there, but that's basically it. So there's a look at those holes and how that come out and all that. So all we got to do is put the other one back in, and big relief there. We got to do the other side, but it won't be as bad because I kind of know what I've got to do now. So let's go ahead and get this other one in. Ah, you probably thought I was going to forget to show you that, huh? No, it came out fairly easy. So that's why I wanted this off in case I had a problem getting it out. So you could try this once and it might come off. It's tapered there at an angle, so it may just boop, fall right out. And now we'll go ahead and put the lower control arm in. Alright, so here's what we're replacing them with. We got 2 of these for $260. And how often do these break? Well, check this out. Look how many they sell of these things. Yippee! They sell quite a bit. Yeah. Must be a big problem with these. Crazy, huh? So apparently there's a problem with these. So let's go ahead and get one of these and stick it on. Alright, just like one of my favorite movie quotes, in like Flynn. How about that? All I gotta do is tighten it up, so I think it's gonna be alright. Aren't you glad you checked this video out? Not too many YouTube videos on this Mercedes 2004 C320 4Matic, so looks like we did pretty good. Alright, let's go ahead and tighten some things up. Ta-da! Alright, it's all on nice and tight. So now we go ahead and put everything here back together. I'm not going to show you how to do it. Pretty simple to do. And we'll hit the other side and see how bad it's going to be. But that gives you a good idea of what you got to go through to replace these. Now you might do yours a little differently, but everybody's going to do things differently. This is just how I do it. If you don't want to do it the way I do it, then do it your own way. But you can see how it worked out for me. Hopefully it works out for you. Alright, it's all back together on this side. The only thing I gotta get at, there's a little clip that goes in here that holds that little sensor down in there. I don't know where it is, but maybe I can get one or find one for it. But everything else went back together. Worked out pretty good. So now we'll put the wheel on, we'll flip it around and start doing the other side. So there you go. Alright, so on the driver's side here, I was able to get this off just by taking the nut off here and taking a big hammer here, something like this, and hitting it a couple of times, then taking a pipe and then sticking it in here and pushing down on this like this, and it come loose. So I didn't have to take all this apart, and I can still push this back far enough to actually just go ahead and bolt this and take it off and slide the new one on and put that on here. Now the other side, like I said, I couldn't do that because this was completely apart and I couldn't get this part out of the bottom of the knuckle. So if yours is still attached like this, you might be able to just separate it like that, a couple blows with a hammer, and just take this off without messing with all this other stuff. So I got the brake caliper up here. I'm gonna go ahead and put a bungee cord on that. We'll go ahead and start unbolting these bolts here. So this side may not take as long as the other side. So yeah, this one's bad too. I can feel the play and slop in there. not supposed to do that, so might as well just change them both out. I don't know, maybe some of you guys want to watch this, but we'll go ahead and take this out on camera. I've got it all loosened up here, and I'm just going to stick my hand in here. Luckily, this side seems like there's a little more room on. This is the driver's side, if I haven't already said that, but get the washer and get that out of the way, and luckily we can pull this bolt forward here and move these lines a little bit, which is just wonderful. We'll probably just take it clear out for now, and that's what we'll do. Alright, so now we only got one in the back to do. Now I'm using on this one here a 21 millimeter socket for the head of this big bolt right there, and I'm using a 13/16 wrench to hold the nut there. Well, it's actually they're both the same size, so go figure. Either one will work on either side, so 13/16 or 21. Yep. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I guess these are the same. Alright, I just wanted to show you just how little room there is. I had no choice. You got to take this tie rod end off and just move it out of the way and push the boot back. Take the clamp off right here. And then there is just, I mean just enough room to get this bolt out. And that's the only way you can actually get it. Now we're ready to take this whole thing out. And as a side note, I don't know how well you can see it, but of course the axle just pulled right out of this housing. There's no boot here, it's all torn up. They're going to have to replace it later. I'll just stick it back in there later. And now we'll go ahead and pull this out of here, get my little pry bar, or actually use a screwdriver, I'm not sure. Now just pull one, it's coming out. There we go, it's out. Ah. And there's a look at that one. So it doesn't have any up and down play that I can feel. Let me check this just for the heck of it. Yeah, it's got up and down play, and I can feel it there, but it's, you know, do one, you might as well do them both. And now let's stick the new one in. Okay, thank you, Mr. Shade Tree. Boy, was it hot out here today. Alright, so everything's back on. I just got to tighten those guys up there. There's that bolt nut there, and I got my tie rod in. I mean, I'm a tie rod in my lower ball joint on. Tip, guys, if this thing, put your nut on and starts to spinning, stick a jack, well, if I can get the camera level here, stick a jack up under the ball joint there, and that really makes a difference. It pushes up on this, and there we go, and it keeps us from turning. So just, you know, put a little jack under there, and I got the axle back in. I'm gonna have to see if I can get a boot or something put in there, but that's not a big deal to, you know, take back off and fix later. But for now, gotta get the car back on the road. But other than that, we're almost done here, so this wasn't too bad. Alright, it is done. If you add up all the hours, I would say it probably took me about 5 hours to do all this because I wasn't in a big hurry. But it's all together and everything went back just like it should. And there's our new lower ball joint control arm and all that. So hopefully this will help you guys out. All I'm going to do now is put the wheel on, take it for a ride, and come back and put the dust covers on it. And that'll be about it. Alright everyone, so far so good. It steers good, no problems, no rattles and all that. So it looks like we did a pretty good job on getting these ball joints on this vehicle. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And until my next video, guys, I will see you later.